The night is quiet, and the world feels distant, softened by the comforting hush that settles when the day finally exhales. In this gentle stillness, we turn back to a time before voices could travel beyond the walls of a room, before sound could leap across miles, before human connection could defy distance. It was a world waiting for someone who could imagine what had never existed, the possibility that one voice could touch another across empty space. In that silence lived a young man with a mind shaped by curiosity and a heart shaped by compassion, Alexander Graham Bell. He was born into a family where sound was not merely heard but studied, cherished, and understood with rare depth. His father and grandfather devoted their lives to teaching the deaf how to communicate, transforming speech into a science of hope. Growing up in this environment, Bell learned that sound was more than vibration. It was connection, understanding, and the bridge between solitude and belonging. This early world of voices and silence would shape the entire course of his life. Even as a child, he sensed that communication was a kind of magic waiting to be expanded. As he grew older, the quiet fascination he held for sound deepened into a steady, patient obsession. He listened to the way air trembled when someone whispered, how music danced through space with invisible grace, and how a human voice could carry emotion in ways nothing else could. His mind drifted through possibilities with the calm certainty of someone who believed that every problem held its own gentle doorway. In those early moments of quiet reflection, he began imagining a way for voices to travel farther than anyone thought possible. But Bell's path was not built from ambition alone. His work grew from a tenderness formed by witnessing the struggles of the deaf, especially those closest to him. Teaching them to communicate awakened in him a deep empathy for any voice that felt unheard. This compassion became the quiet force guiding his inventions, reminding him that technology meant nothing without humanity woven through it. As his ideas grew, so did his belief that invention could serve as a form of love, a way to give someone a connection they never had before. Tonight, as you settle into rest, we will walk slowly through the life of a man who changed the soundscape of the world, a man whose gentle observations led to one of the most transformative inventions in human history, a man who believed that even the softest whisper deserved to be heard. This is the calm, unfolding story of Alexander Graham Bell, the listener, the dreamer, and the inventor who turned silence into possibility. Alexander Graham Bell's childhood unfolded in a home filled with the gentle echoes of practice sentences, whispered consonants, and the soft determination of people learning to shape sound. His father, Alexander Melville Bell, was a respected teacher of elocution who believed the voice could be trained with the same precision as a musical instrument. Each day, Bell watched his father guide students through the intricate movements of the tongue and mouth, transforming silence into speech. This environment immersed young Bell in a world where communication was not taken for granted, but understood as a delicate and beautiful art. Growing up alongside this atmosphere, Bell developed a curiosity that stretched far beyond childhood simplicity. He asked questions not to challenge, but to understand, sensing that every sound had a story hidden within its vibration. His mother, Eliza, who became increasingly deaf over time, communicated with him through touch, expression, and quiet intuition. Bell learned to speak to her with clarity, softness, and patience, forming a bond that shaped his understanding of empathy. In her silence, he discovered the profound strength hidden in those who listen deeply. This unique combination of influences, a father who studied speech, a mother who lived in a world without it, gave Bell an unusual sensitivity to the entire spectrum of human communication. He saw sound not just as noise, but as connection, carrying emotion across the fragile bridge between people. When other children played games, Bell often sat quietly, listening to the world around him with the fascination of someone noticing patterns no one else could hear. His mind absorbed details effortlessly, observing how voices rose, fell, and revealed something deeper than words alone. As he entered adolescence, Bell's curiosity grew into a desire to create, invent, and explore the mechanics behind sound. He began dissecting musical instruments, not to destroy them, but to understand how vibrations produced tones that stirred the heart. He built simple machines, tested reed pipes, and experimented with the flow of air through metal tubes, treating each device as a stepping stone toward greater understanding. These early tinkering moments were the seeds of an inventor's mind, nurtured not by ambition, but by the gentle urgency of deeper curiosity. Bell also possessed a quiet determination, though it rarely showed as stubbornness. Instead, it appeared in the long hours he spent in thoughtful concentration, often retreating into the rhythms of his own ideas. He enjoyed walking alone through fields near his home, listening to birdsong and carrying scraps of paper where he scribbled theories about sound waves. Nature's quiet symphony guided him, teaching him how the world itself communicated through wind, leaves, and distant echoes. His imagination moved gracefully between wonder and analysis, crafting possibilities that blended intuition with observation. His father recognized this early spark, nurturing it with the encouragement of a mentor rather than the authority of a parent. He introduced Bell to the world of visible speech, a symbolic system designed to represent the mechanics of the voice. Bell became fascinated by how shapes and diagrams could capture something as ephemeral as sound, providing a tangible doorway to understanding the invisible. This exposure sharpened his ability to visualize ideas, granting him the rare skill of imagining complex systems before they existed. Meanwhile, Bell's gentle bond with his mother deepened his emotional intelligence in ways that would later influence all his work. He learned that silence could hold meaning just as powerful as spoken words, and that communication did not always require sound. He watched her navigate life with grace, relying on expressions and subtle cues to understand those around her. These experiences etched into his heart a profound respect for the deaf community, shaping his lifelong mission to build bridges between sound and silence. As Bell stepped into young adulthood, he carried with him a sense of responsibility born not from pressure, but from empathy. He wanted to help those whose voices were unheard, whose worlds lacked the vibrations that others took for granted. This purpose guided him through his studies, inspiring him to explore new ways of teaching the deaf and inventing tools to make their lives easier. Even then, he understood that inventions mattered most when they touched human lives with kindness. Yet Bell's journey was not without loss. The death of his two brothers from tuberculosis cast a somber shadow on his youth, reminding him of life's fragility. This grief awakened a deeper seriousness within him, pushing him toward purpose-driven work rather than idle curiosity. He began to see time as something delicate, something he could not waste if he wanted to create meaningful change. Instead of breaking him, these challenges formed the quiet steel at the heart of his character. His father, fearing for Bell's health, decided the family must leave Scotland's damp climate and relocate to Canada. This move marked a turning point that would shape the rest of Bell's life. The rugged landscapes of rural Canada awakened a sense of freedom and inspiration within him, offering solitude that nurtured his inventive spirit. Here, surrounded by nature's quiet vastness, Bell found space to dream, to experiment, and to listen more deeply than ever before. This new world prepared him for discoveries far greater than he could imagine. When the Bell family settled in Canada, Alexander embraced the vast, quiet landscape with a sense of renewal that softened the grief he carried. The open fields, dense forests, and endless skies offered him a stillness that allowed ideas to form gently in the back of his mind. He spent hours exploring the wilderness, listening to the subtle harmonies of birds, wind, and distant water, noticing patterns that others overlooked. These moments deepened his understanding of sound, shaping his belief that communication, in any form, was rooted in the natural world. While the countryside nurtured his imagination, Bell also began helping his father teach visible speech to the deaf in nearby communities. He observed their struggles, hopes, and quiet perseverance, gaining insight into the emotional weight carried by those who could not hear. Each lesson strengthened his resolve to bridge the gap between silence and sound. He worked with a calm patience that made students feel understood, revealing his instinctive knack for connecting deeply with people who lived in a world few fully grasped. This work led Bell to experiment with new methods for transmitting sound in ways that could make communication easier for the deaf. He built simple devices that captured vibrations, allowing users to feel words through touch rather than hear them. His early inventions were modest, yet they demonstrated an important truth. Bell's creativity grew from compassion rather than ambition. Seeking recognition never crossed his mind. Instead, he focused on discovering practical tools that offered dignity and independence to those who had long been isolated by silence. During this period, Bell became fascinated by the growing field of electrical science. He read every book he could find on telegraphy, studying how signals could travel through wires across great distances. While most people saw the telegraph as a finished miracle, Bell sensed a deeper possibility hiding beneath its design. He wondered whether sound, not just coded pulses, could one day be carried through wires as naturally as it traveled through air. This question sparked a quiet determination within him, stirring the earliest roots of the invention he would one day become famous for. Despite his growing interest in electrical experiments, Bell never abandoned his mission to help the deaf. His compassionate teaching caught the attention of educational leaders in Boston, who invited him to instruct students at a prestigious school for the deaf. Accepting the position meant leaving the calm solitude of Canada, but Bell felt a pull toward opportunities that could amplify his impact. With his father's gentle encouragement, he moved to the United States, carrying with him the same empathy, curiosity, and steady focus that had defined his early years. Boston welcomed Bell with admiration and warmth, recognizing his natural talent for teaching and communication. Yet beneath his gentle exterior, Bell nurtured a deep sense of purpose that extended far beyond the classroom. He spent long evenings in quiet boarding rooms conducting experiments, tinkering with wires, reeds, membranes, and magnetized instruments. His mind often drifted between teaching and invention, finding inspiration in every detail of the day. Students' struggles with communication fueled his desire to create a device that could carry voices, giving sound a path where silence once lived. Bell's imagination rarely rested. When walking through the city, he listened to the hum of machinery, the rhythm of footsteps, and the murmur of conversations around him. These ordinary sounds blended into a symphony of possibilities, revealing connections between physics, emotion, and human need. Each evening he returned to his experiments with renewed determination, sketching diagrams and adjusting components with the patience of someone sculpting a dream. Though progress came slowly, Bell felt certain he was following a trail toward something extraordinary. His colleagues sometimes worried about his long hours and relentless curiosity, but Bell moved through his work with the comforting rhythm of someone guided by quiet purpose. Even when he grew frustrated, he never raised his voice or allowed tension to cloud his thoughts. Instead, he paused, breathed, and reconsidered the problem from a different angle, trusting that solutions appeared more easily to a calm mind. This gentle persistence would become one of the most important qualities in his journey toward invention. Meanwhile, rumors about Bell's experiments began circulating in Boston's scientific community, attracting the attention of people eager to witness his unusual ideas. Some dismissed him as overly imaginative, believing the human voice could never be carried through metal wires. But others sensed a rare brilliance in his theories, especially in the way he blended emotional understanding with scientific reasoning. Bell accepted both skepticism and support with quiet humility, focusing not on proving others wrong, but on following the whisper of possibility that guided him forward. Among those drawn to Bell's work was a young woman named Mabel Hubbard, one of his students who had lost her hearing to illness as a child. Her intelligence, warmth, and resilience impressed him deeply, and over time, their bond grew into a profound friendship. Bell admired her determination to live fully despite her deafness, while Mabel admired his devotion to helping the deaf communicate. Their connection strengthened Bell's belief that communication, in all its forms, was a force that could transform lives. This relationship would soon become one of the most meaningful influences in his journey. As Bell continued teaching during the day and experimenting late into the night, he developed early sketches of a device he called the harmonic telegraph. He believed multiple tones could be sent across a single wire by tuning each signal to a different frequency, much like notes on a musical scale. This idea of layered communication fascinated him, offering a pathway toward transmitting more than simple telegraph pulses. Though still far from realizing the telephone, Bell could sense he was slowly approaching a breakthrough that would challenge the world's understanding of communication. The more Bell experimented, the clearer it became that his entire life had quietly prepared him for the path he now walked. His childhood in a home filled with speech science, his mother's silence, his compassion for the deaf, his fascination with sound, and the long hours listening to the natural world, all of these threads wove themselves into the foundation of his work. Each moment shaped his intuition, guiding him toward a future that would one day reshape the way humanity connected. He approached his growing theories with reverence, understanding that innovation required patience, balance, and a willingness to follow subtle clues hidden within ordinary experience. As his ideas matured, Bell felt the comforting presence of his past supporting him, reminding him that invention was not merely a mechanical process, but an emotional journey. With each quiet discovery, he grew closer to the moment when his imagination would leap into reality. But for now, he continued walking his path with calm determination, listening deeply to the world both around him and within him. As Bell settled more deeply into his dual life as teacher and experimenter, the boundary between the two roles began to blur in gentle, meaningful ways. During his lessons, he studied the expressions of his deaf students as they attempted to form sounds, noticing how they compensated with touch, sight, and intuition. These observations offered him insights that no scientific text could provide, teaching him how the human voice responded to tension, breath, and effort. Each day in the classroom refined his understanding of speech, subtly guiding his nighttime experiments toward greater clarity. His fascination with the harmonic telegraph intensified as he explored how different vibrations could coexist without interfering with one another. He imagined a world where multiple signals traveled down the same wire, each tone separate yet harmonious, like voices in a choir. This idea consumed his thoughts during quiet evening walks, blending with the gentle rhythm of horse-drawn carriages and the soft glow of gas lamps lining Boston's streets. Bell treated the city like an instrument, listening for patterns that might unlock the principles he sought. Working late into the night became a familiar routine, marked by the soft scratch of pencil against paper and the occasional spark of static from experimental coils. Bell's boarding room grew cluttered with wires, magnets, and delicate metal reeds that responded to electrical currents with musical tremors. He adjusted them with the precision of a watchmaker, coaxing tones that carried hints of promise. These fragile sounds felt like faint whispers from the future, urging him to keep searching for the key that would connect them into a coherent system. Bell's experiments often brought him to the edge of discovery, yet the final breakthrough remained out of reach. There were moments when frustration crept in, but he never allowed it to settle. Instead, he relied on the calm discipline he had learned from years of teaching the deaf: patience, observation, and trust in gradual progress. He believed that every failed attempt revealed something useful, a subtle correction that nudged him closer to the truth. This gentle mindset protected him from despair, allowing creativity to flourish even in uncertainty. At the same time, Bell began collaborating with Thomas Watson, a young machinist whose steady hands and practical skill complemented Bell's imaginative theories. Watson found Bell's ideas intriguing, even when they seemed impossible, and approached each challenge with a grounded determination. Together, they formed a partnership rooted in mutual respect, Bell providing the vision and Watson bringing that vision into physical form. Their combined enthusiasm filled the workshop with a quiet electricity, making each experiment feel like a step toward something extraordinary. Their early work focused on refining the harmonic telegraph by isolating tones and stabilizing vibrations along the wire. Day after day, they adjusted tuning forks, tightened wires, and tested new configurations, searching for a way to improve clarity and reduce interference. The process was slow and delicate, requiring endless patience. Yet both men found comfort in the gradual unfolding of discovery. Even when results seemed small, Bell felt a growing sense of momentum, as though the invention he sought was beginning to reveal its outline. Bell's teaching continued to inspire his scientific work in unexpected ways. He observed how students shaped words with their hands, lips, and facial muscles, learning that speech depended as much on physical movement as on sound. These insights helped him approach his inventions with a deeper understanding of how vibrations could be transformed into intelligible communication. He realized that the key to transmitting speech lay not just in sending tones, but in capturing the subtle variations that formed the human voice. This revelation marked a shift in his thinking, steering him toward a new horizon. As Bell's theories evolved, he found himself increasingly drawn to the concept of a device capable of transmitting not just tones, but full vocal expression. This idea was daring, far beyond anything the scientific community believed possible, but Bell approached it with gentle certainty. He imagined a membrane that vibrated like the human eardrum, converting sound waves into electrical signals that traveled along a wire. If these signals could be reversed at the receiving end, perhaps the voice that created them could be heard again. The thought filled him with quiet excitement. The more Bell pondered this possibility, the more he sensed that his experiments were converging toward a single unifying principle. His days became a blend of observation, theory, and experimentation, each reinforcing the other with steady rhythm. Even amid the noise of Boston, he felt surrounded by ideas waiting to be discovered in the spaces between sound and silence. These moments of reflection strengthened his belief that communication could take forms no one had yet imagined. With each step, he moved closer to a breakthrough that would soon change the world. Bell's growing conviction that voice itself could travel along a wire began to shape every hour of his life. He carried scraps of notes in his pockets, pausing during walks to jot down sudden ideas before they faded. Even the simplest sounds, a passing conversation, the ring of a shop bell, the hum of machinery, became clues pointing toward patterns he hoped to understand. He sensed that somewhere within these subtle vibrations lay the secret he sought, waiting patiently for him to uncover it with equal patience. As his concepts grew more intricate, Bell refined his sketches with increasing precision, imagining a delicate balance between mechanical vibration and electrical variation. He believed the human voice created complex waves that could be imitated by a carefully designed membrane connected to an electric circuit. By converting sound into fluctuating current, that current could then be reshaped back into sound at the receiving end. Though this idea demanded a bold reimagining of electrical communication, Bell felt guided by a calm certainty rooted in years of observation and empathy. Watson, ever supportive, worked beside Bell with quiet dedication, crafting experimental parts from whatever materials they could afford. He hammered, soldered, carved, and polished components with steady hands, transforming Bell's imaginative sketches into real instruments, their workspace filled with the soft clatter of tools and the faint metallic hum of vibrating reeds, blending into a rhythm they both found soothing. These long evenings formed the heart of their collaboration, where two different minds united under one shared vision. Some nights brought setbacks, cracked membranes, tangled wires, or sudden failures that erased hours of work. Yet Bell refused to see these obstacles as signs of defeat. Instead, he approached each disappointment with thoughtful reflection, analyzing every detail to uncover its lesson. His calm resilience strengthened Watson's resolve, reminding them both that invention required patience more than perfection. These challenges, rather than discouraging Bell, deepened his commitment to discovering how sound might travel across a wire as effortlessly as breath through air. As Bell continued teaching speech by day, he discovered new insights into the delicate mechanics of articulation. He observed how slight changes in breath tension or lip position produced distinct tones, each carrying a unique signature of the speaker's voice. These observations helped him refine his theories on how electrical currents might mimic these subtle variations. The classroom became an extension of his laboratory, offering living examples of vibrational nuance that no machine had yet captured, but that Bell believed could be transformed into electrical form. Mabel Hubbard, whom Bell admired deeply, began observing his dedication with both affection and concern. She understood the emotional weight of his mission, knowing that his desire to help the deaf connected intimately with his memories of his mother's silence. Mabel encouraged him to rest, but also recognized the importance of his work, often becoming a source of calm reassurance when progress felt elusive. Their growing bond brought Bell quiet comfort, reminding him that invention was not only a technical endeavor, but a human one. Bell's thoughts expanded as he explored the connection between music and speech. He believed that musical tones held clues to how complex waveforms behaved, offering a gateway to understanding the structure of the human voice. During late-night experiments, he struck tuning forks, listened to their lingering harmonics, and watched how their vibrations influenced electrical circuits. These moments of gentle discovery filled him with hope, revealing that the laws governing melody and conversation might not be so different after all. This realization guided him toward designs that blurred the lines between instrument and invention. His thinking grew increasingly bold as he envisioned devices that could mimic the sensitive mechanics of the human ear. He studied anatomical diagrams, tracing how sound waves entered the ear canal and vibrated the eardrum before becoming electrical impulses interpreted by the brain. Bell began sketching membranes modeled after this natural design, imagining how they could convert sound into electrical currents. This blend of biology and engineering marked a significant step in his journey, offering a conceptual bridge between physical vibration and transmitted sound. Meanwhile, Bell's ideas attracted both curious supporters and skeptical critics. Some scientists dismissed his theories as fanciful, arguing that electrical currents lacked the refinement needed to carry complex auditory signals. Bell listened respectfully to their doubts, but remained unmoved by them. He believed that skepticism was a natural response to anything new, especially ideas reaching beyond the accepted boundaries of science. Instead of arguing, he let his quiet progress speak for itself, knowing that persistence would one day validate his vision. As the weeks passed, Bell's experiments grew increasingly focused, revealing patterns that hinted at a major breakthrough. He and Watson refined their components, adjusting membranes, coils, and wiring with patient precision. They listened closely to the faint tones produced in their experiments, hoping to detect a resonance that suggested the presence of transmitted sound. Each soft vibration felt like a message from the future, encouraging them to continue exploring the delicate border between silence and communication. Though the decisive moment had not yet arrived, Bell could sense that he stood on the threshold of something remarkable. His entire life, his family's influence, his deep empathy for the deaf, his fascination with sound, and his calm perseverance seemed to converge into a single point of direction. He felt as though he were following a quiet whisper that had guided him since childhood, urging him toward a discovery that would soon reshape the world. In the gentle stillness of each night, Bell trusted that the next step would reveal itself in time. Bell's experiments entered a new phase as he concentrated more deeply on the idea of transmitting spoken sound through an electrical pathway. He approached each test with a blend of scientific rigor and quiet intuition, sensing that the problem required both discipline and creativity. His evenings became marked by the soft glow of lamplight reflecting off metal instruments scattered across the workbench. Each component seemed to hold a hint of promise, and Bell studied them with the patient curiosity of someone listening for a faint melody hidden beneath silence. He spent hours adjusting thin membranes designed to vibrate like the human eardrum, testing how they responded to the pressure of sound waves. These delicate materials trembled with the slightest breath, producing subtle movements that Bell believed could form the basis of transmitted speech. He watched the tiny motions with unwavering focus, noticing how even slight variations created distinct patterns. These observations filled him with quiet excitement, reinforcing his belief that if vibrations could be captured with precision, they could also be carried across a wire. Watson watched Bell with a mixture of admiration and concern, recognizing the intensity of his partner's dedication. Though Watson understood the technical foundations of their experiments, Bell's imagination often traveled into realms few machinists explored. Still, he trusted Bell's instincts, following each new idea with practical craftsmanship. Together, they created prototypes that blended vision and engineering, merging fragile reeds with coils of wire arranged in intricate loops. Their teamwork created a rhythm of progress that neither could have achieved alone. As they refined their designs, Bell grew increasingly convinced that consistent electrical variation was the key to transmitting complex sound. He theorized that the human voice produced waves too intricate for simple on-off electrical pulses like those used in telegraph systems. Instead, the current would need to rise and fall with the same smoothness as sound itself, capturing the subtlety of tone and inflection. This realization marked an important shift in Bell's thinking, revealing that the path to success lay not in imitating the telegraph, but in surpassing it entirely. Bell tested his theory by experimenting with tuning forks attached to electrical circuits, studying how the vibrations influenced the flow of current. He discovered that when a tuning fork oscillated near an electromagnet, it generated alternating electrical patterns that corresponded to its frequency. This breakthrough suggested that sound could indeed modify electrical energy in ways that carried its characteristics. Though it was only a small step toward transmitting voice, the discovery confirmed that Bell's intuition had been correct. He felt a renewed sense of determination as he recorded each result with careful detail. His work with the deaf continued to shape his scientific approach, reminding him that communication was ultimately about connection rather than perfection. Bell noticed how students relied on lip reading, facial expressions, and the vibrations they felt through their hands. These insights helped him understand how sound could be perceived through multiple pathways, reinforcing the idea that speech carried emotional weight beyond its physical form. The more he taught, the more he appreciated the importance of preserving the human essence within whatever system he created. The scientific world around Bell began shifting as news of his ideas circulated among inventors and investors interested in telegraphy. Some believed his theories held commercial potential, while others dismissed them as impractical diversions from more profitable pursuits. Bell accepted both praise and skepticism with equal calm, focusing instead on the quiet unfolding of discovery. He understood that innovation often required moving against prevailing expectations, trusting instead in intuition and steady effort. This resilience allowed him to continue his work without distraction. In moments of fatigue, Bell found inspiration in music, often playing the piano late at night to reflect on the rhythmic qualities of sound. He listened to how each note blended with the next, creating patterns that flowed naturally through the air. These musical insights guided his understanding of waveforms, helping him visualize how speech might travel within an electrical current. Music reminded him that sound was not merely mechanical, but expressive and deeply human. This belief encouraged him to approach his invention with both sensitivity and precision. His evenings became a blend of scattered sketches, half-finished prototypes, and quiet reflection as he attempted to integrate the principles he discovered. Bell often paused to consider the emotional significance of what he sought to create, a device that could connect voices separated by distance and circumstance. He imagined loved ones speaking across miles, sharing comfort and understanding through wires that bridged the spaces between them. These thoughts strengthened his resolve, reminding him that technology served its greatest purpose when it brought people closer together. As Bell's theories matured, he faced growing pressure from investors who wanted results and progress that fit within familiar telegraphic systems. Yet Bell felt a gentle clarity that his work required a different direction, one rooted in vocal transmission rather than coded messages. This divergence created tension, but Bell navigated it with quiet determination. He believed strongly that pursuing voice communication was worth every challenge, and he trusted that patience would eventually reveal the pathway he sought. Bell's experiments soon demanded greater precision, leading him and Watson to refine their instruments with increasing care. They replaced fragile components with sturdier materials and redesigned key mechanisms to capture more reliable vibrations. Each adjustment brought them a little closer to understanding how electrical currents responded to sound, revealing patterns Bell found both beautiful and instructive. These delicate improvements transformed their workshop into a place where science and creativity blended seamlessly, each discovery unfolding in the gentle rhythm of long late-night efforts. As Bell developed more advanced prototypes, he frequently returned to earlier designs, studying them with fresh insight gained from recent progress. He found that solutions often hid within old attempts, waiting for a new perspective to reveal their value. Watson assisted by revisiting previous builds, repairing damaged parts, and testing components under different conditions. Their partnership grew stronger through this iterative process, each man relying on the other's strengths to push their shared vision forward. Together they nurtured the fragile possibilities that emerged from each experiment. The scientific community's interest in Bell's work gradually intensified, with some researchers showing cautious curiosity while others remained skeptical. Bell's calm demeanor and thoughtful explanations helped bridge these reactions, allowing him to share ideas without defensiveness or haste. He often demonstrated small prototypes to colleagues, letting them hear faint sounds produced by vibrating reeds or see electrical meters respond to the slightest pressure. These demonstrations hinted at the potential of voice transmission, leaving observers intrigued even if they could not fully grasp the underlying theory. At home, Bell spent hours contemplating the emotional significance of transmitting speech across distance. He imagined families separated by circumstance, able to hear each other's voices through wires carrying vibrations that echoed their presence. These visions strengthened his belief that communication was more than a technical achievement. It was a profound human need. This understanding encouraged him to approach each experiment with care, ensuring that he preserved the natural warmth and texture of the human voice within his designs. His invention, he believed, should not distort connection, but deepen it. Despite progress, Bell faced moments of discouragement when promising theories led to disappointing results. A membrane might fail to respond consistently, or a coil might generate only faint, distorted tones. During these setbacks, Bell reminded himself that innovation demanded patience, and he turned to the habits that helped maintain his balance. Walking quietly through the city, reading by lamplight, or spending time with Mabel. These moments of calm reflection renewed his determination, allowing him to return to the workshop with a clear mind and steady focus. As spring approached, Bell felt his ideas gathering momentum, as though each discovery nudged him closer to a transformative breakthrough. His experiments began revealing subtle but encouraging signals: stronger vibrations, clearer electrical variations, and more stable responses across wires. Watson noticed the shift as well, sensing that their long nights of study and refinement were preparing the foundation for something remarkable. This shared awareness created a quiet sense of anticipation between them, fueling a renewed commitment to their work. Bell's understanding of waveforms deepened as he explored how electrical currents could be shaped to match the intricacies of spoken sound. He studied how pitch, intensity, and rhythm combined to form coherent speech, and he considered how these qualities might be preserved during electrical transmission. These reflections helped him design circuits capable of responding more faithfully to vocal vibrations, transforming mechanical movement into more nuanced electrical patterns. Each improvement brought clearer evidence that the human voice could indeed be carried through wire. Meanwhile, Bell juggled the growing demands of teaching, research, and invention with remarkable composure. His students continued to inspire him, their challenges and triumphs reminding him of the emotional heart behind his scientific pursuits. He balanced these responsibilities with a quiet discipline, ensuring that none of his endeavors overshadowed the others. This harmony sustained his creativity, allowing ideas to take shape without pressure or urgency, growing naturally from the experiences of each day. The turning point approached slowly, revealed through small but meaningful breakthroughs rather than dramatic leaps. Bell refined his transmitter design, adjusting the tension of the membrane and the placement of the coils until they responded with smoother electrical fluctuations. Watson refined the receiver, enhancing its ability to interpret these currents with greater sensitivity. Their combined efforts formed a bridge between vibration and electricity, marking the beginning of a new era in communication. Though the full transmission of voice had not yet been achieved, they could feel it drawing near. By the end of that season, Bell sensed that he stood at the threshold of discovery. His mind returned again and again to the idea that had fueled his work from the beginning: the belief that sound, once captured and transformed, could be sent across distance with clarity and emotion intact. Each experiment whispered that this dream was no longer a distant hope, but an emerging reality. In the gentle quiet of his workshop, Bell prepared himself for the moment when his lifelong fascination with sound would awaken into something extraordinary. Bell's workshop had become a sanctuary of quiet anticipation, filled with instruments that reflected years of patient effort and gentle persistence. Coils of wire hung neatly along the walls, tuning forks rested on wooden shelves, and delicate membranes sat atop small stands waiting for the next experiment. Each object carried the subtle energy of Bell's longing to transform sound into a traveling force, something capable of bridging distance with the same intimacy as face-to-face conversation. Every night he studied his creations with the calm attentiveness of someone listening for a whisper that had not yet fully formed. His harmonic telegraph experiments continued, revealing unexpected clues that shaped his approach to voice transmission. Whenever a tuning fork reacted to electrical currents with surprising consistency, Bell found himself imagining how speech might behave if treated with the same careful precision. He believed the key lay not in brute strength of current, but in its sensitivity, its ability to follow the subtle rise and fall of sound waves. This recognition deepened Bell's appreciation for the delicate relationship between vibration and electricity, convincing him that small details held greater power than large mechanisms. Watson noticed Bell's growing clarity and began constructing components with even greater care, understanding that their progress now depended on near-perfect coordination between parts. He sanded wooden frames until they were smooth, wound coils with patient accuracy, and tested each piece before adding it to the assembly. Watson's craftsmanship allowed Bell's ideas to take physical form with the precision required for breakthrough experiments. Their bond grew stronger in these moments of shared effort, each gesture built on trust and the quiet belief that they were approaching something extraordinary. Many evenings, Bell reviewed his notebooks in silence, reflecting on how far his ideas had come since the early sketches in Canada. He traced the lines of his diagrams slowly, noticing patterns that had gone unnoticed during earlier months of exploration. These reflections revealed the subtle progression of his thoughts, showing how each failed experiment contained the seeds of something more refined. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the long journey, Bell found comfort in the steady unfolding of discovery, trusting that every step had prepared him for the next. Bell's understanding of the human ear played a growing role in shaping his designs. He studied the structure of the eardrum, the motion of the ossicles, and the conversion of sound into neural signals. This biological knowledge illuminated the path toward creating artificial systems capable of similar transformations. Bell believed that nature offered the perfect blueprint for transmitting sound, and he sought to honor its design by creating instruments that worked with the same elegance. This insight guided him toward more sophisticated transmitters that mimicked the ear's sensitivity with striking accuracy. During this period, Bell often visited Mabel and her family, drawing comfort from their warmth and support. Mabel recognized the intensity of his dedication and understood the emotional roots of his work better than anyone else. She saw in him both the inventor striving for a breakthrough and the compassionate teacher who longed to help those living in silence. Their conversations, expressed through careful lip reading and handwritten notes, offered Bell a sense of grounding that steadied him during periods of doubt. Her presence became a soft anchor in the midst of his growing ambitions. As Bell's theories expanded, he found himself dreaming about the possibilities of instantaneous communication. He imagined distant friends speaking to one another without waiting for letters, families hearing each other's voices across continents, and entire communities connected by invisible pathways of sound. These imaginings filled him with a quiet exhilaration, revealing the transformative potential of his invention. Bell understood that such a device would not simply transmit sound, it would reshape the way people experienced the world, dissolving distance with the tenderness of speech. On long evening walks, Bell's mind often wandered toward the emotional weight of voice, recalling memories of his mother's soft tones before silence claimed her hearing. These reflections reminded him why his work mattered, not for fame or recognition, but for the profound human need to feel heard. He believed that sound carried something deeper than information. It carried presence, emotion, and the assurance that someone cared enough to speak. This belief strengthened Bell's resolve to create a device that preserved the authenticity of human expression. With this renewed sense of purpose, Bell began refining the transmitter's design, focusing on how the diaphragm responded to sound waves. He tested various materials, comparing their flexibility, strength, and sensitivity to vibrations. Thin metal sheets produced sharper responses, while treated membranes offered warmth and nuance. Bell conducted each test with gentle precision, listening closely as subtle tones revealed which materials translated sound most faithfully into electrical variation. These delicate experiments laid the groundwork for a device capable of capturing the human voice with clarity. The scientific world around Bell continued evolving, with rival inventors exploring different methods of communication based on coded signals. Some of them believed that expanding the telegraph system was the future, while others began imagining new technologies that pushed beyond its limitations. Bell, however, remained focused on the uniqueness of voice transmission, trusting in the simple but profound truth that hearing another person's voice offered comfort nothing else could replicate. His calm certainty distinguished him from others, guiding him along a solitary but meaningful path. Bell and Watson's experiments entered a phase where every adjustment felt meaningful, as though the device itself were guiding them toward the right configuration. They spent evenings fine-tuning the tension of wires, repositioning magnetic cores, and recalibrating the delicate membrane at the heart of the transmitter. Each change produced small but noticeable differences in the responsiveness of the system, revealing the fragile balance between mechanical precision and electrical sensitivity. Bell recognized that these subtleties were essential, and he approached each session with renewed focus and quiet optimism. Watson's skill in crafting reliable components became increasingly vital as the experiments grew more complex. He fashioned stronger frames, refined the alignment of critical parts, and ensured that each instrument responded consistently to the slightest vibration. Bell admired Watson's steadiness, understanding that his own ideas could only take shape through Watson's hands. Their collaboration felt like a natural harmony, with Bell's intuition and Watson's craftsmanship merging into a unified force. This partnership provided the stability Bell needed as he ventured deeper into uncharted scientific territory. Bell's thoughts frequently drifted back to the lessons learned during his work with the deaf, reminding him of the profound importance of communication in shaping human connection. He imagined how life might change if voices could travel across distance, dissolving isolation with the familiar warmth of sound. This vision kept him grounded during difficult moments, reminding him that his invention was not simply a mechanical achievement, but a deeply human one. These reflections strengthened his resolve, guiding him through challenges with serenity rather than urgency. As Bell refined the transmitter, he turned his attention to improving the receiver's sensitivity, knowing that clear articulation depended on the device's ability to reproduce subtle variations in current. He studied how the membrane interacted with the magnetic field, adjusting thickness, material, and tension until he found a combination that responded faithfully to incoming signals. Each successful test reinforced his belief that he was nearing a breakthrough, and he recorded every detail meticulously. These pages of notes became a quiet testament to his persistent curiosity and methodical approach. Despite progress, Bell remained aware of the immense challenges still ahead. The electrical currents he generated could mimic certain vibrations, but translating full speech required a level of fidelity he had not yet achieved. He pondered this limitation during quiet moments, imagining how nature might solve the problem. Observing how the human ear transformed complex waves into meaningful sound gave him insights into ways he might refine his instruments. These contemplative pauses served as both rest and revelation, shaping the direction of his next experiments. Financial pressures added another layer of complexity to the journey as investors grew restless for deliverable results. They valued the harmonic telegraph for its commercial potential, but doubted the practicality of Bell's voice transmission theories. Bell navigated these expectations with composed determination, offering updates without compromising his focus on the invention he believed mattered most. Though he understood the economic realities of innovation, he refused to allow them to eclipse the dream that had guided him since childhood. Instead, he continued working quietly, trusting in the gradual unfolding of discovery. As winter deepened, Bell and Watson's workshop became a haven of warm lamplight against the cold outside. Within its walls, the soft hum of experimental devices blended with the subtle crackle of firewood, creating an atmosphere conducive to thoughtful exploration. The two men found comfort in this shared space, where the world's skepticism remained distant and irrelevant. Here they could follow their instincts freely, adjusting instruments with the gentle confidence of people who felt the breakthrough drawing near, even if they could not yet articulate it. During this period, Bell experienced moments of striking clarity where ideas unfolded with unusual fluidity. He would pause mid-experiment, sketching rapid diagrams that captured the essence of sudden insight. Watson learned to recognize these moments and stepped back quietly, allowing Bell's imagination to move without interruption. These flashes of understanding illuminated complex relationships between vibration and current, helping Bell envision the next steps with greater confidence. Each breakthrough, though small, represented an essential piece of the larger puzzle. The growing harmony between their transmitter and receiver signaled that they were approaching the critical threshold where sound could be carried through the wire. They began hearing faint but recognizable patterns in their tests, tones that hinted at the possibility of spoken sound. These subtle hints created a sense of anticipation that neither man could ignore, filling the workshop with a quiet excitement. Bell felt as though the invention had begun breathing on its own, urging them onward toward the moment of transformation. Bell's reflections on his mother, his students, and the emotional language of voice became increasingly intertwined with his scientific work. He understood that the true value of his invention lay in capturing not just sound, but presence. A transmitted voice, he believed, should carry warmth, nuance, and the unmistakable imprint of the person who created it. This belief became the guiding spirit of his efforts, inspiring him to honor the humanity within the science. With each experiment, Bell moved closer to a discovery that would give shape to this vision in a way the world had never seen. Bell began noticing a subtle shift in the behavior of his instruments, as though the pieces were drawing into alignment with the purpose he had carried for years. The transmitter responded more smoothly to vibrations, and the receiver produced clearer tones that echoed with faint traces of human articulation. These early hints of possibility filled Bell with a quiet sense of wonder, making each experiment feel like a gentle step into new territory. He treated every result with respect, knowing that small progress often held the most profound meaning. As the devices grew more refined, Bell and Watson found themselves working with increasing synchronicity. They communicated through gestures, brief comments, and shared intuition, shaping their efforts with an unspoken understanding. Watson listened carefully to Bell's descriptions of subtle changes in tone or vibration, adjusting components with the precision of a craftsman sculpting fine details. Bell valued Watson's steady hands and calm judgment, recognizing that the success of their invention depended as much on Watson's skill as on his own imagination. Their collaboration became a seamless blend of ingenuity and craftsmanship. Bell's late evening reflections grew deeper as he evaluated each day's progress, often sitting by the window with his notes spread out around him. He traced the patterns of electrical variation, searching for the faint signature of human resonance within the currents. Though speech remained elusive, these patterns suggested that the system now possessed the sensitivity required to capture vocal vibrations. These realizations filled him with renewed patience, reminding him that breakthroughs often emerged slowly from layers of understanding accumulated over time. The atmosphere in the workshop became charged with anticipation, though Bell never allowed excitement to overshadow careful method. He insisted on repeating experiments multiple times, ensuring that every result was reliable and rooted in consistent behavior. Watson shared this dedication, calibrating instruments with unwavering focus as they tested membranes, coils, and circuits under various conditions. The routine took on a rhythmic quality that steadied their minds, allowing them to approach each challenge with serenity rather than urgency. This calm diligence carried them steadily toward the brink of discovery. Bell's teaching continued to inform his experiments, particularly his observations of how students shaped sound without hearing it themselves. He noticed how their hands moved instinctively to feel vibrations on throats and cheeks, and how they interpreted facial cues with remarkable sensitivity. These insights reminded him that sound was not merely heard but felt, a truth that guided his refinement of the transmitter's diaphragm. By designing it to respond with tactile accuracy, Bell hoped to honor the natural complexity of vocal communication. This approach grounded his scientific work in the humanity he cherished. During moments of solitude, Bell thought often of his father's work with visible speech and how those early lessons had shaped his understanding of articulation. The system of symbols his father created helped him appreciate the mechanical precision of spoken language, offering a framework that now guided his search for electrical speech. Bell reflected on this connection with gratitude, recognizing how each stage of his life had quietly contributed to the foundation of his invention. These reflections strengthened his confidence, assuring him that he followed a path shaped by purpose rather than coincidence. As winter gave way to early spring, Bell's experiments produced increasingly refined electrical patterns that responded fluidly to changes in sound. He noticed that certain configurations yielded currents that resembled the natural flow of speech, offering a faint hint of intelligibility. These moments sparked a gentle excitement within him, encouraging him to examine the system more closely. He felt as though the invention had begun revealing itself in pieces, offering glimpses of its potential before retreating into silence. This delicate balance between promise and mystery fueled Bell's determination to continue. Watson sensed that they were nearing a turning point and prepared the workspace with extra care, organizing tools and components so that experiments could proceed without interruption. He ensured that wires were wound neatly, screws tightened properly, and all instruments kept in their optimal condition. Watson's commitment gave Bell the confidence to push further into his theories, knowing that the physical execution of his ideas rested in reliable hands. Their partnership, strengthened by mutual respect, became the quiet engine driving the invention forward. Bell found himself increasingly captivated by the idea that voice, with all its emotional power, could someday travel through thin strands of metal. He imagined distant lovers hearing each other's whispers, families speaking across oceans, and communities bridging isolation with the warmth of spoken connection. These visions filled him with a sense of responsibility to honor the human heart behind his invention. He approached each experiment with reverence, understanding that the telephone, if realized, would become a vessel for some of humanity's deepest emotions. As the season continued, Bell refined the relationship between the transmitter's diaphragm and the electrical coil, seeking a configuration that captured the most accurate representation of vocal vibration. He tested membranes of varying thickness, listening intently as each produced unique patterns of fluctuating current. Some delivered sharp, crisp responses, while others offered softer, more expressive movement. Through this delicate exploration, Bell grew increasingly certain that he was uncovering the physics behind electrical speech. These discoveries brought him ever closer to the threshold that separated imagination from reality. Bell's progress during this period unfolded with a gentle steadiness, revealing patterns in the electrical currents that hinted at the possibility of transmitting recognizable speech. He observed these currents with the same attentive care he once used when studying the subtleties of facial expression in his deaf students. Each fluctuation felt like a small glimpse into the physics of the human voice, carrying fragments of emotion through tiny shifts in energy. These moments strengthened his conviction that the solution lay within reach, waiting to be gathered from the delicate interplay between vibration and electricity. As he refined the transmitter's design, Bell began experimenting with the exact placement of the armature and coil, discovering that even slight adjustments significantly influenced the clarity of the resulting signal. He worked patiently, altering angles by small degrees, while Watson monitored changes with a machinist's precise eye. They repeated these tests countless times, noting how each variation produced distinct electrical signatures. These slow but unmistakable improvements deepened their understanding of how faithfully sound could be captured, inching them closer to the breakthrough they both sensed approaching. Watson, recognizing the importance of consistency, devoted extra time to improving the stability of the experimental setup. He reinforced the frame to reduce unwanted vibrations and recalibrated the supporting screws to maintain even tension across the diaphragm. These structural refinements minimized interference, allowing Bell to focus on the true behavior of the sound-responsive components. Watson's quiet diligence became an essential foundation for Bell's creative exploration, ensuring that every experiment rested on reliable ground. Their teamwork moved in gentle harmony, each effort amplifying the other's strength. As Bell continued testing different membrane materials, he began noticing how each responded to the subtleties of sound in unique ways. Thinner membranes captured higher frequencies with clarity, while slightly thicker ones resonated more warmly with deeper tones. This discovery prompted Bell to consider whether a single material could accurately represent the full range of human speech. His reflections guided him toward selecting a membrane with balanced elasticity, capable of responding to the entire spectrum of vocal vibrations. This balance, he believed, was essential to preserving the emotional authenticity of transmitted voice. During these experiments, Bell spent many nights reflecting on the evolution of communication and how his invention might reshape the concept of connection. He imagined a world where the human voice traveled effortlessly across vast distances, transforming the experience of isolation into one of closeness. These quiet dreams filled him with a deep sense of purpose, reminding him that invention carried the potential to change lives. This understanding gave him strength on difficult days, allowing him to approach each new experiment with renewed clarity and calm determination. Bell's thoughts frequently returned to his mother, whose world of silence had shaped his earliest understanding of communication. He remembered her serene presence, the way her eyes softened when he spoke clearly, and the tender moments where sound had been replaced with gesture and touch. These memories infused his work with emotional depth, guiding his desire to create a device that honored the human need for connection. He believed that the transmission of voice held the power to ease loneliness and strengthen bonds in ways letters never could. This belief carried him forward, even when progress felt slow. As the weeks unfolded, Bell and Watson began hearing faint but increasingly meaningful hints of human-like articulation in their tests. Although the sounds were far from clear speech, they possessed rhythmic qualities that resembled the cadence of spoken language. Each of these moments stirred a quiet excitement in both men, revealing that the system was finally beginning to reflect the natural flow of voice. Bell treated these early signs with reverence, recognizing them as delicate markers of approaching discovery. The workshop grew charged with a soft anticipation, as though the invention itself were preparing to awaken. Bell refined his theories further by studying how electrical current could be modulated continuously rather than in discrete bursts. He believed that speech, with its fluid rises and falls, required a current that moved gracefully through each change in tone. This led him to adjust the transmitter so that its diaphragm directly influenced the electrical intensity, creating a smooth correlation between vibration and current. These adjustments brought the system closer to a continuous wave model, an approach that promised far greater fidelity than anything previously attempted. This conceptual shift marked one of the most significant steps in Bell's journey. Meanwhile, Watson observed that the receiver responded more consistently when the incoming electrical variations were steady and uninterrupted. This insight prompted further refinement of the magnet and armature, optimizing their responsiveness to subtle shifts in current. Watson's careful calibrations revealed new possibilities for enhancing clarity, motivating him to pursue the smallest improvements with renewed focus. His contributions grounded Bell's theories in mechanical reality, forming the practical backbone of their progress. Together they nurtured the invention with patience, empathy, and a shared belief in the transformative power of communication. By the end of this stretch of work, Bell sensed that the crucial moment was drawing near. The system had begun responding to sound in ways that resembled the earliest forms of intelligible vocal transmission, offering faint but promising hints of clarity. Bell felt an unfamiliar combination of calmness and exhilaration, as though the years of effort were converging into a single point of possibility. The air in the workshop seemed charged with quiet expectation, carrying the gentle promise of a discovery that would soon change the world. Bell and Watson prepared themselves for the moment when imagination would finally become reality. Bell entered this next stage of experimentation with a quiet steadiness, sensing that the invention he had pursued for years was drawing closer to its first true awakening. The instruments responded with new confidence as he refined each component, revealing patterns that aligned increasingly with the natural flow of speech. These subtle signals gave Bell a sense of direction he had never felt so strongly before, guiding his fingertips as he adjusted wires and membranes. He approached every test with a calm intensity, treating each vibration as a message from the future waiting to be understood. As Bell and Watson continued working late into the evenings, the soft glow of lamplight illuminated their growing collection of experimental devices. Each instrument seemed to embody a different stage of their journey, reflecting both the failures and achievements that had shaped their progress. Bell often paused to examine these prototypes, running his hand gently across surfaces worn from repeated use. These moments of reflection reminded him how far they had come, encouraging him to trust that every detail, no matter how small, had contributed to this moment of nearing discovery. Bell spent increasing amounts of time analyzing waveforms, studying how the current responded when the diaphragm vibrated under different conditions. He filled pages of notebooks with sketches of these variations, trying to map the electrical signatures to the complexities of human speech. These diagrams helped him visualize the relationship between sound and electricity, revealing patterns that grew more coherent with each experiment. Bell found comfort in this gradual clarity, appreciating the slow unfolding of knowledge rather than seeking sudden revelation. Meanwhile, Watson's contributions grew even more essential as the experiments demanded greater mechanical precision. He tightened screws, cleaned contact points, and replaced worn components with carefully crafted parts that improved the system's responsiveness. Watson's calm diligence and unspoken trust in Bell's vision strengthened their partnership, grounding the work with practical stability. Their roles complemented each other so naturally that the workshop often felt like a single organism, its progress shaped by two minds moving in quiet harmony. Bell's thoughts frequently turned toward the emotional weight of voice, especially when he reflected on his mother and students. He recalled the softness in his mother's gaze as she interpreted his speech through movement rather than sound, and the determination of his students who communicated through gesture and touch. These memories filled him with a sense of purpose that made the technical challenges feel secondary. He believed deeply that transmitting voice across distance could provide comfort to those separated by silence, giving people a new way to feel close despite physical barriers. During one late-night experiment, Bell noticed a subtle shift in the way the diaphragm responded to sound. The vibrations produced a more continuous electrical fluctuation, suggesting that the system was finally sensitive enough to follow the fluidity of spoken tone. Bell leaned closer, listening with the same focused attention he used when studying a student forming their first careful words. This faint improvement, though fragile and incomplete, felt significant, like a quiet promise that speech could indeed be captured and carried. Bell recorded every detail, knowing that such turning points often arrived gently rather than dramatically. Encouraged by this progress, Bell revisited earlier ideas with renewed clarity, studying how different materials influenced the transmitter's sensitivity. He experimented with metal diaphragms of various thicknesses, observing how each responded to changes in pitch and intensity. Some produced sharper responses, while others offered a smoother, more expressive range. Bell compared these results carefully, searching for a material capable of capturing the full emotional spectrum of human speech. This thoughtful exploration deepened his belief that invention required harmonizing physical properties with human expression. Watson observed Bell's growing confidence and shared in the quiet excitement filling the workshop. He prepared the devices meticulously each day, ensuring that everything was positioned perfectly for the next round of experiments. Watson also tested receivers independently, verifying that they could interpret subtle variations with consistent accuracy. His methodical approach complemented Bell's intuitive leaps, creating a balance between creativity and precision that pushed their work steadily forward. Their collaboration felt more natural than ever, strengthened by mutual respect and a shared sense of nearing achievement. Bell also spent time studying how to amplify the transmitted signals, understanding that clarity depended on more than just accurate electrical variation. He experimented with adjusting the strength of the magnetic field, testing whether tighter coupling between the armature and coil improved the signal's definition. These tests revealed new possibilities for enhancing articulation, showing that even minor adjustments could dramatically influence the quality of the transmitted sound. Bell approached each discovery with humility, recognizing that nature often revealed itself in the smallest details. As this stage of experimentation continued, the workshop became filled with faint tones, rhythmic clicks, and the soft tremors of vibrating membranes. These sounds blended into a subtle symphony that Bell found deeply encouraging, each tone hinting at the complexity of speech waiting to be captured. The environment around him grew charged with anticipation, yet Bell maintained his calm focus, trusting that the invention would come together in its own time. He sensed that the moment of first transmission was drawing steadily nearer, guided by the patient accumulation of knowledge and the steady rhythm of his work. Bell noticed that with each passing day, the faint electrical patterns began resembling the contours of actual speech more closely. While still far from clear transmission, these improvements carried a rhythm and intensity that felt undeniably human. He studied these patterns with patient fascination, recognizing that the system now responded with a sensitivity unimaginable when he first began. These hints of articulation filled him with a sense of profound anticipation, encouraging him to continue refining the delicate balance between diaphragm and current with unwavering focus. Watson played an increasingly important role during this period, testing and repairing components with the calm reliability Bell depended upon. He replaced worn wires, adjusted misaligned armatures, and ensured that the devices remained stable during repeated experiments. Watson's meticulous care prevented many potential setbacks, allowing Bell to spend more time analyzing the electrical behavior rather than troubleshooting mechanical issues. Their combined efforts created an environment where progress could unfold naturally, gently pushing the invention closer to its defining moment. During quiet evenings, Bell found himself reflecting on the greater meaning behind his work, often imagining how future generations might embrace the ability to speak across distance. He pictured loved ones hearing each other's voices through long stretches of land, their words carrying comfort and reassurance through thin metal wires. These visions filled him with a sense of responsibility that strengthened his determination, reminding him that invention was not merely a scientific achievement, but a way to deepen the connections that shaped human life. This emotional clarity guided his work with renewed purpose. As the system grew more refined, Bell noticed that the electrical variations became smoother when he adjusted the tension of the diaphragm with increased precision. He experimented with different fastening techniques, carefully observing how each change affected the way sound waves translated into electrical movement. These tests revealed a delicate threshold where the membrane's responsiveness aligned perfectly with the current's fluctuations. Bell understood that achieving this equilibrium was essential if the device was ever to capture the full character of the human voice. This realization shaped the direction of his next experiments. Watson developed new techniques to stabilize the experimental setup further, adding soft padding to dampen unwanted vibrations caused by movement in the workshop. He also improved the mountings for the magnetic cores, ensuring that each test began from the same precise starting point. These refinements made it easier to distinguish meaningful results from noise, helping Bell identify which changes genuinely improved transmission. Watson's quiet ingenuity added a layer of reliability that allowed Bell to explore more advanced configurations with confidence, strengthening their momentum toward discovery. Bell's desire to understand the mechanics of speech deepened as he continued teaching the deaf, observing how slight shifts in facial tension altered the resonance of vocal vibrations. He realized that voice was an intricate interplay of breath, posture, and emotion, each influencing the shape of the sound waves he hoped to send through wire. These observations reminded him that even the smallest inconsistencies could alter perception, guiding him toward designs that mimicked the natural flow of human speech with greater fidelity. This deeper awareness enriched his experimental approach, making each test feel more connected to its purpose. As the invention neared completion, Bell began experiencing moments where the line between failure and success felt thinner than ever before. During certain tests, faint but distinctive patterns emerged that resembled the cadence of spoken syllables. These signals were fragile and incomplete, yet they carried a quality that Bell recognized instantly. The workshop fell silent in those moments, both men listening with stillness as the instrument whispered hints of what it might soon accomplish. These subtle breakthroughs filled Bell with a gentle thrill, assuring him that the evolution of his ideas was converging into something powerful. Bell grew increasingly dedicated to balancing the transmitter and receiver so that their responses mirrored each other as closely as possible. He adjusted the coil's position relative to the diaphragm, refining the magnetic coupling to optimize sensitivity. His understanding of how electrical energy carried motion deepened with each experiment, revealing how different frequencies demanded distinct mechanical behaviors. These insights strengthened Bell's conviction that the system was on the verge of producing intelligible speech, even if the final step remained just out of reach. He continued refining the design patiently, trusting that clarity would emerge in time. As winter approached its end, the workshop became a place filled with quiet excitement and subdued determination. Bell and Watson worked through each experiment with steady focus, observing each device with a reverence befitting something on the threshold of awakening. They began hearing clearer indications that the system could reproduce the nuances of voice, producing vibrations that followed speech patterns with impressive accuracy. These encouraging signs filled the space with a sense of anticipation, as though the invention itself was preparing to reveal its full potential. By the time the final stages of experimentation approached, Bell sensed that the moment of true transmission was now only a few steps away. Every improvement had brought the device closer to capturing the gentle complexity of voice, and now the electrical fluctuations resembled spoken sound with remarkable fidelity. Bell felt a calm certainty settle within him, a quiet assurance that the next breakthrough would not be accidental, but the result of patience, purpose, and unwavering belief. He prepared himself for what was to come, knowing that the voice of the future was waiting in the next breath of discovery. Bell awoke each morning with a quiet sense of momentum, feeling the growing closeness of a breakthrough that had taken years to approach. The workshop, once a place of uncertain experimentation, now felt like a living environment filled with expectation and subtle purpose. Even the familiar creaks of the wooden floorboards and the soft hum of coiled wires seemed different somehow, as though the instruments themselves were preparing for the moment they would finally speak. Bell moved through the space with a calm, focused energy, trusting that every step was guiding him toward the inevitable awakening of his invention. During one particularly clear morning, Bell revisited his diagrams with renewed attention, tracing each line as though rediscovering the ideas behind them. He noticed connections between earlier sketches that he had overlooked, subtle patterns suggesting improvements he could now see only because of how far the invention had matured. These realizations brought a quiet excitement, not because the progress felt sudden, but because it felt deeply earned. Every failure, every late-night test, and every patient adjustment had shaped the understanding he now carried effortlessly. Watson sensed this shift as well, observing how Bell's movements became more deliberate, his decisions more confident. He prepared the equipment carefully, ensuring the workspace was organized with precision that would allow Bell to pursue new ideas without interruption. Watson's hands moved with practiced ease as he aligned components, polished contacts, and tested circuits for reliability. His steady support created an atmosphere of calm readiness, making the workshop feel like a sanctuary where discovery could unfold naturally and without distraction. Bell spent several quiet hours refining the transmitter's diaphragm, testing how small changes in tension altered the movement of the electrical current. He pressed his ear close to the receiver, listening as faint variations flowed through the wire, forming patterns that hinted at something more coherent than simple tones. Each improvement, however slight, guided him toward the configuration that might finally translate the fullness of speech. Bell worked with a meditative stillness, trusting that clarity would emerge from the careful layering of countless small refinements. As the morning light softened into afternoon, Bell explored the receiver more deeply, analyzing how the magnetic field responded to the fluctuating current generated by the diaphragm. He adjusted the armature with the care of someone aligning delicate clockwork, observing how small modifications influenced the resonance of each sound. Bell recognized that the key to true transmission lay in achieving a perfect partnership between the transmitter and receiver, where every nuance of vibration was mirrored with equal sensitivity. This delicate relationship became his focus, guiding each movement with patient precision. During moments of rest, Bell allowed himself to imagine the emotional impact of transmitting a human voice across distance. He pictured a quiet room suddenly filled with the sound of a loved one speaking from miles away, their tone carrying warmth that transcended physical separation. These visions reminded him that the invention was not merely mechanical, it was profoundly human. Bell believed that when the device finally succeeded, it would offer people a new kind of closeness, a way to feel heard even when separated by vast distances. This belief strengthened his resolve as the day's work unfolded. Near the end of the afternoon, Bell tested a refined version of the transmitter, speaking softly into the diaphragm while Watson monitored the receiver. Though no words emerged clearly, the electrical vibrations carried an unmistakable rhythm of speech, as though the wire itself were attempting to articulate meaning. Bell listened with quiet awe, recognizing that these patterns represented the closest they had ever come to transmitting a human voice. The room fell still as both men absorbed the significance of the moment, understanding that the final breakthrough might now be only one careful adjustment away. Bell approached the next series of experiments with a quiet certainty, sensing that the work now required only the gentlest refinement rather than dramatic change. He adjusted the transmitter with delicate care, tightening a single screw and repositioning the diaphragm by the smallest margin. These shifts felt almost insignificant, yet Bell understood how sensitive the system had become, and how easily clarity could emerge from adjustments that seemed invisible to the eye. With each motion, he carried the patient confidence of someone who had spent years learning to trust the smallest details. Watson prepared the receiver for another test, ensuring that every contact point was clean and every coil aligned with perfect symmetry. He listened closely to the faint hum of the system as it awakened, noting subtle behaviors that had not been present during earlier experiments. Watson's observational skills had grown as finely tuned as Bell's intuition, allowing him to recognize insights that only experience could reveal. This harmony between their strengths created a balance that made the workshop feel poised at the edge of discovery, as though the air itself had grown expectant. As the device came alive again, Bell spoke softly into the transmitter, shaping each word with deliberate care. The resulting vibrations traveled through the diaphragm, carrying their rhythm into the electrical circuit and along the wire toward Watson's receiver. The sounds that emerged were still muffled, more whisper than speech, yet they carried a new coherence that neither man had heard before. Bell recognized the pattern instantly, feeling a quiet thrill rise within him, not in a burst of excitement, but in a calm realization that the invention had taken another undeniable step forward. Encouraged by the improvement, Bell studied the diaphragm's behavior more closely, observing how certain frequencies caused the membrane to respond with remarkable accuracy. He tested different pitches, listening as the receiver reproduced each variation with increasing fidelity. These experiments revealed how closely the device now mirrored the movement of the human voice, transforming sound into current and current back into sound. Bell felt a kind of gratitude toward the instrument itself, as though it had slowly learned how to speak through the patient efforts of their years together. Watson noticed that the system responded more clearly when background vibrations in the room were minimized. He closed the workshop windows, secured loose tools, and even adjusted the position of the table to reduce the transfer of ambient motion. These small changes improved the purity of the signal, allowing the electrical pattern to carry Bell's voice with greater distinction. Watson understood that discovery demanded not only innovation, but also an environment where delicate truths could reveal themselves without interference. His careful preparation added another layer of stability to the unfolding breakthrough. Bell continued refining the tension of the diaphragm, altering it by fractions of a turn as he listened intently to the receiver's response. He recognized how much the human voice relied on subtle shifts in breath and pressure, and he sought to mimic that responsiveness within the mechanism. Each test deepened his understanding of how variations in tension shaped the clarity of articulation, guiding him toward the perfect balance needed to capture the essence of speech. This careful study brought the invention closer to the threshold where words might finally emerge with true intelligibility, The workshop grew quiet as Bell prepared for another trial, this time speaking a series of short, rhythmic phrases designed to test the range of vocal motion. Watson leaned near the receiver, listening with full attention as faint, wavering tones rose and fell in patterns that echoed the rhythm of Bell's words. Though still blurred, these patterns possessed a recognizable cadence that made both men pause. It was as if the wire had begun to imitate language, shaping electrical motion into the ghost of spoken communication. Bell recorded this moment carefully, sensing that the final barrier was beginning to thin. As the day continued, Bell revisited the relationship between the transmitter and receiver, ensuring that their responses mirrored each other as closely as possible. He noted how each improvement in the transmitter immediately strengthened the behavior of the receiver, revealing the delicate interconnectedness of the system. Bell refined the alignment of the magnetic core, improved the balance of the armature, and ensured that the electrical path remained smooth and uninterrupted. These refinements deepened the harmony between the two devices, pushing the invention toward its decisive moment. Near sunset, Bell performed one final test for the day, his voice soft but confident as he spoke, a phrase meant to challenge the system's ability to replicate natural inflection. Watson listened as the wire responded with a sound that carried more shape and intention than anything they had heard before. The words were not yet clear, but the pattern unmistakably belonged to human speech, not mere vibration. Bell felt a quiet, powerful recognition settle over him. The invention was awakening, and the true transmission of voice was no longer a distant dream, but an approaching reality shaped by years of patience, empathy, and unwavering belief. Bell entered this new phase of work with a sense of grounded anticipation, carrying the quiet knowledge that the true moment of transmission was no longer a distant hope, but something moving steadily toward them. The workshop, once defined by uncertainty, now felt like a space preparing for the arrival of something historic. Even the stillness between experiments carried a subtle tension, as if the instruments themselves were listening for the first clear sound they would ever speak. Bell moved gently through the room, ensuring every component was ready to receive whatever discovery emerged next. He returned to the transmitter with careful attention, adjusting the diaphragm with the same delicate touch one might use when tuning a fragile instrument. Bell knew now that the alignment of the membrane determined not only clarity, but also the emotional shape of the sound it carried. He tested it with soft tones, listening as the receiver responded with faint but promising echoes. These responses guided him toward the subtle interplay between physical vibration and electrical movement, forming a pathway that might soon allow spoken words to travel through the wire. Watson observed Bell's renewed focus and prepared the workspace to support the next round of detailed experiments. He organized tools methodically, coiling wires with thoughtful precision and stabilizing the table legs to eliminate stray vibrations. Watson's calm readiness brought a sense of stability to the room, grounding their progress in quiet discipline. His presence gave Bell the freedom to explore new configurations without distraction, creating a balanced atmosphere where discovery could unfold naturally and without unnecessary urgency. As Bell tested the instrument again, he noticed that the electrical fluctuations now followed his vocal patterns with a grace they had never shown before. The waveform rose and fell with smoother transitions, suggesting that the system was finally capable of carrying the full dynamics of speech. Bell leaned closer to the receiver, listening with a careful attentiveness honed through years of working with the deaf. He recognized within the faint tones a structure resembling the breathing rhythm of spoken language, and this recognition filled him with a quiet, steady hope. Bell began speaking simple words into the diaphragm, choosing phrases with clear articulation and gentle pacing. The receiver responded with muffled sounds that rose and fell in patterns unmistakably shaped by human expression. Though the words were not yet decipherable, their contours carried meaning in a way the system had never achieved before. Bell felt the emotional weight of this breakthrough, understanding that the boundary between silence and speech had never been thinner. He documented each test thoroughly, sensing the importance of capturing every detail. During a reflective pause, Bell considered the years of persistent effort that had guided him to this point, remembering the countless nights where progress felt invisible. He thought about his mother's quiet world, his students' struggles, and the determination that had grown from witnessing both. These memories reminded him why transmitting voice mattered, not for recognition, but for connection. The invention, he believed, would give people a way to feel heard across distance, offering comfort that no written message could ever match. This purpose strengthened his resolve as he returned to the work. Watson prepared to run another test, adjusting the receiver to ensure that it was aligned with absolute precision. He monitored the magnetic coil's position, testing its responsiveness to the incoming current with gentle taps that produced faint, reliable tones. Watson's practiced hands moved with unwavering confidence, shaping the experimental environment with stability that encouraged Bell's boldest ideas. Their collaboration felt more unified than ever, driven by mutual respect and the shared belief that the first transmission was now within reach. Bell shifted his attention to the electrical circuit, refining the connections to minimize resistance and stabilize the flow of current. He believed that the path of the electrical signal needed to be as clean as possible to preserve the delicate variations that defined speech. These adjustments brought new coherence to the system, smoothing the transitions within the current and making each fluctuation more meaningful. Bell recorded the effects meticulously, recognizing that clarity often emerged from improvements so subtle they could easily be overlooked. As evening light filtered through the workshop windows, Bell initiated another series of tests, his voice soft and steady as he spoke into the transmitter. Watson listened carefully at the receiver, waiting for the faint tones to reveal the next stage of progress. The vibrations carried a new strength, their rhythm more defined, and their patterns more aligned with the natural cadence of Bell's speech. Both men knew instantly that the invention had taken another significant step forward, bringing the first actual words closer than they had ever been. Bell ended the day feeling a deep sense of alignment between his purpose, his craft, and the evolving instrument before him. The invention now felt alive, responding with a sensitivity shaped by years of patience and careful refinement. The sounds emerging from the receiver were no longer random experiments. They were the early shadows of spoken voice beginning to take form. Bell sensed that the moment of true transmission would emerge not through force, but through continued patience, quiet focus, and trust in the process. With this calm confidence, he prepared for the next day's work. Bell returned to the workshop the following morning with a steady sense of readiness, as though the previous day's progress had opened a door that now waited quietly for him to step through. The instruments rested exactly where he had left them, their polished surfaces catching the soft morning light. The air carried a stillness that felt almost ceremonial, reminding Bell that each attempt was not merely an experiment, but an approach toward something transformative. He moved with deliberate calm, ensuring every component was prepared for what the day might reveal. Watson joined him shortly after, his expression reflecting the same quiet anticipation Bell felt. He inspected the devices carefully, making subtle adjustments to ensure nothing had shifted overnight. Watson's steady efficiency created a sense of stability within the room, grounding Bell's explorations with practical support. Their partnership had grown so cohesive that they often worked in near silence, communicating through shared focus rather than spoken words. This harmony allowed the experiments to unfold naturally, each step building seamlessly upon the one before it. Bell began the day's work by reviewing the electrical patterns from the previous tests. He traced the shapes of the currents with his fingertip, noting how closely they resembled the natural flow of human speech. These curves carried structure, rhythm, and intention, the silent signature of the voice he hoped to transmit. Bell felt a deep sense of appreciation for the years of persistent effort that had led him to this point, recognizing that the invention's awakening emerged not from sudden inspiration, but from patient dedication to subtle truths. He adjusted the transmitter's diaphragm once more, tightening it with the precision of someone tuning a delicate musical instrument. Bell knew that small shifts could either bring the system into perfect alignment or push it back into muddled sound. He spoke a few gentle test phrases, listening as the receiver produced tones that flowed more naturally than ever before. Though still imperfect, these tones carried the unmistakable imprint of articulated speech, igniting a spark of quiet certainty within him. The device was learning to speak. Watson positioned himself by the receiver, ready to listen with full attention to the next trial. He steadied the device with his hands, ensuring that nothing interfered with the delicate resonance of its components. Watson's presence offered Bell a sense of reassurance, reminding him that discovery was rarely a solitary achievement. Their shared focus filled the room with an atmosphere of anticipation, as though the air itself waited for the moment when sound would cross the wire in recognizable form. Bell prepared to deliver another test, shaping his voice with careful clarity as he spoke directly into the transmitter. The diaphragm responded instantly, setting the electrical current into smooth, continuous motion. Watson leaned in, listening as faint wavering tones emerged from the receiver, tones that followed Bell's words with unprecedented accuracy. Though the speech was still indistinct, its cadence held meaning, forming patterns that sounded less like echoes and more like beginnings. Both men recognized this subtle but powerful shift, understanding that the final leap was now within reach. Encouraged by this progress, Bell refined the electrical pathway, adjusting the contacts to ensure that the current flowed without interruption or distortion. He believed that uninterrupted motion was essential to capturing the fluidity of voice, and these refinements made each fluctuation more coherent. The system responded with increased sensitivity, revealing how deeply connected each component had become in shaping the overall clarity. Bell documented his findings carefully, knowing that these small improvements formed the foundation of the breakthrough that lay ahead. As the afternoon grew quiet, Bell initiated another test, this time speaking slowly and with more emphasis on each syllable. Watson listened closely, his breath catching slightly as the receiver produced tones that carried a clearer outline of speech than ever before. For a brief moment, the sound resembled a recognizable word, not perfectly formed, but undeniably shaped by human intention. This fleeting clarity lingered in the room, creating a powerful silence that neither man wished to disturb. They understood immediately that the invention had crossed another invisible line. Bell ended the day with a profound sense of alignment between his vision and the device before him. The invention now stood on the threshold of speaking its first clear words, its progress shaped by years of quiet perseverance. Bell felt no rush, no urgency, only a calm acceptance that the final breakthrough would arrive naturally, born from the same patience that had guided every step of the journey. As he dimmed the lamps and prepared to leave the workshop, he sensed that the first true transmission was waiting just beyond tomorrow. Bell awoke with an unusual calm that morning, feeling a quiet clarity settle over him like a gentle veil. The previous days had carried a momentum that felt unmistakable, as though the invention had been inching steadily toward its true voice. The world outside remained unchanged, soft morning light, distant footsteps, the muted hum of the city. But Bell sensed that something important waited in the hours ahead. He moved through his morning routine with deliberate ease, preparing himself for whatever discovery the day might bring. When Bell entered the workshop, he noticed that the instruments seemed almost expectant, resting with a poised stillness that mirrored his own anticipation. The coils, membranes, and supporting frames appeared exactly as he had left them, yet they carried a different presence, as if aware of their nearing transformation. Bell stood quietly for a moment, absorbing the atmosphere before beginning his work. He approached the transmitter with a sense of reverence, recognizing how many years of patient refinement had led to this fragile moment. Watson arrived shortly after, offering Bell a small nod that communicated everything without a word. Both men understood that something meaningful was coming, not because of a dramatic revelation, but because so many subtle patterns had aligned in recent tests. Watson prepared the workspace with the same care he used during the most promising experiments, checking each connection, tightening each screw, and ensuring that nothing interfered with the instrument's sensitivity. Their shared silence carried a weight of concentration, binding them into the same forward-facing hope. Bell began by reviewing the notes from the previous day, tracing the familiar shapes of electrical variations that had come so close to resembling words. These curves reflected the rising and falling motion of human speech, hinting at the invention's readiness to take its first true step into communication. As he studied the patterns, Bell felt a deep appreciation for the methodical path that had guided him to this point. He believed wholeheartedly that nature revealed its secrets only to those who approached with patience, humility, and genuine curiosity. He adjusted the diaphragm with slow precision, tightening the screws by small increments until the tension felt exactly right beneath his fingertips. Bell understood now that the device required a balance resembling the delicate equilibrium of the human ear, sensitive enough to vibrate with nuance, yet stable enough to hold its structure under pressure. He spoke a few soft test tones into the transmitter, listening as the receiver offered a new clarity that shimmered through the wire like something waking from sleep. The sound carried weight, intention, and shape. Watson leaned close to the receiver, listening intently to the subtle changes in tone and resonance. He recognized the familiar rhythm of Bell's voice, hidden within the electrical echo, clearer now than ever before. Watson adjusted the receiver slightly, steadying its position to ensure accurate feedback. His quiet confidence reassured Bell, reinforcing the sense that the breakthrough they had been approaching for years now rested within reach. Together, they prepared for the next test with focused minds and steady hands. Bell cleared his throat gently, preparing to articulate a phrase that would test the system's ability to carry speech more faithfully than it ever had before. He formed each syllable with deliberate care, knowing that clarity depended on both mechanical precision and the natural flow of his voice. The diaphragm responded instantly, setting the electrical current into smooth motion that carried his words through the wire. Bell paused, listening as the receiver released faint tones that rose and fell with unmistakable purpose. The sound was not yet clear enough to name, but it held a distinct human cadence, something undeniably shaped by language rather than simple vibration. Bell felt a quiet thrill, not expressed outwardly but settling deep within him like a warm current. He turned to Watson with a shared understanding, both men recognizing the significance of what they had heard. The invention had crossed another invisible threshold, stepping closer to the moment it would speak its first true words. Bell recorded the results meticulously, noting each improvement with the same rigorous detail that had guided him throughout the process. He recognized that the breakthrough approached not in leaps, but through countless small refinements that built upon each other like carefully placed stones. These notes reflected not only scientific progress, but the emotional journey of discovery, the patience, uncertainty, and quiet hope that had shaped every stage. Bell felt grateful for the steady unfolding of truth, trusting that the next step would reveal itself in its own time. Bell approached the next phase of experimenting with a sense of calm concentration, understanding that the invention was now balanced on the edge of something extraordinary. The slightest adjustment could either bring clarity or blur the delicate progress they had achieved. He worked with careful, measured movements, refining the diaphragm and verifying that each contact point remained perfectly aligned. Bell felt the weight of the moment not as pressure, but as a quiet acknowledgement that years of steady effort had prepared him for what was about to unfold. Watson observed Bell's meticulous adjustments with growing anticipation, sensing the subtle confidence guiding Bell's movements. He prepared the receiver with equal care, aligning the armature and testing its responsiveness to subtle shifts in electrical current. The room grew silent, except for the faint hum of charged wires, creating an atmosphere where even the air seemed to listen. Watson's steady presence grounded the space, ensuring that Bell could continue without distraction as they approached the final threshold together. Bell initiated the next test by shaping a simple phrase, allowing the words to form naturally and with clear articulation. The transmitter vibrated immediately, converting the subtle textures of his voice into a flowing electrical wave. Watson leaned close as the receiver trembled in response, releasing sounds that carried the unmistakable rhythm of Bell's speech. Though still unclear, the tones held more structure than ever before, shaped by the careful adjustments they had poured into the invention. Both men paused, recognizing the unmistakable shift in fidelity. Encouraged by this progress, Bell refined the tension of the diaphragm once more, adjusting it by the smallest meaningful fraction. He understood now that the device responded best when every part worked in gentle equilibrium, reflecting the natural balance of breath and tone in spoken language. Bell took a moment to steady his breath, sensing that the next trial might carry the voice of the invention more clearly than any before it. His hands moved with calm confidence as he prepared for another attempt. Watson steadied the receiver, feeling a growing sense of anticipation pulsing beneath the surface of the work. He watched Bell closely, ready to listen with all his attention as the next set of vibrations traveled through the wire. The workshop seemed to hold its breath with them, as though the building itself understood the significance of the moment. Watson positioned himself carefully, knowing that clarity could emerge in an instant, soft and fragile, as a whisper through still air. Bell spoke again, forming a phrase with gentle emphasis to test the invention's ability to carry expressive articulation. The diaphragm responded immediately, sending a smooth wave of fluctuations along the wire toward Watson's receiver. As the tones emerged, Watson heard something he had never heard before, an unmistakable fragment of speech, so distinct that it caught him completely still. The sound was faint, imperfect, and blurred at the edges, yet it carried the clear shape of a word, rising through the static. A quiet shock passed between them as they realized the device had finally begun to speak. Bell felt a deep wave of emotion wash through him, not loud or triumphant, but quiet and steady, like a tide reaching shore after a long journey. He recognized that this moment was the culmination of years spent listening carefully to the world, its rhythms, its vibrations, its silences. The invention had crossed a threshold that transformed possibility into reality, opening a path he had dreamed of since the earliest days of studying sound. Bell recorded the moment with steady hands, preserving every detail with reverence. In the stillness that followed, Bell and Watson absorbed the enormity of what they had just witnessed. There were no grand declarations or celebrations, only a shared understanding that the invention's first true words had arrived like dawn breaking gently after a long night. They knew that greater clarity would come with further refinement, but the essential truth had already revealed itself. Human speech had traveled along a wire and returned recognizable. In that quiet moment, the future opened before them in a way neither could fully describe Bell ended the day with a profound sense of gratitude for Watson's unwavering partnership, for the years of patient effort, and for the subtle harmony between science and humanity that guided his work. He sensed that the world would soon change, not through noise or spectacle, but through the simple act of hearing another person's voice from afar. As he extinguished the lamps and stepped out into the evening air, Bell carried with him a calm certainty that the greatest breakthrough of his life had just begun to unfold. Bell arrived at the workshop the next morning with a steady sense of purpose, carrying the calm conviction that something pivotal waited quietly within the day's work. The previous breakthroughs had softened the final barrier, revealing that the invention now stood only a breath away from its first true voice. The room felt different when he entered, still familiar in its arrangement of coils, wires, and instruments, yet unmistakably charged with anticipation. Bell paused for a moment, letting the silence settle around him before gently preparing for the next step in the journey. Watson joined soon after, sensing the same quiet momentum lingering in the air. He moved through the workshop with practiced precision, checking the receiver for any loose connections and ensuring that each coil rested in its optimal position. Watson handled the instruments almost reverently, aware that the next experiment could bring the clarity they had been pursuing for years. The silence between the two men carried a shared focus, creating an atmosphere in which discovery seemed not only possible, but very near. Bell reviewed the latest notes, tracing the electrical patterns that had emerged in previous tests. These curves displayed clear rhythms that resembled articulated speech, not abstract vibration. Bell studied them carefully, recognizing how each curve revealed a truth about how the voice interacted with electricity. This understanding filled him with a quiet sense of alignment, as though the invention and his own intuition had finally reached the same point, ready to move together into the unknown. He examined the transmitter's diaphragm with great care, adjusting the tension until it found the perfect balance between flexibility and stability. Bell understood that the diaphragm acted like the invention's heart, responding to every nuance of sound with subtle precision. He tightened each screw slightly, observing how the membrane settled into its new shape, ready to transform breath and vibration into electrical waves. Bell prepared to speak into the instrument, his voice steady and calm, reflecting years of quiet determination. Watson steadied the receiver, aligning himself to listen with full attention. He placed his ear near the instrument, allowing the soft hum of electrical current to fill the space between them. Watson's awareness sharpened, knowing that each vibration carried the potential to become the first clear, transmitted word in human history. His calm focus offered Bell reassurance, reminding him that every discovery they had made had been a shared journey, built on trust, patience, and mutual belief. Bell began the next test with a simple phrase spoken gently into the transmitter. His voice flowed through the diaphragm, shaping the electrical fluctuations with a smoothness that reflected the countless refinements made over the years. The vibrations traveled along the wire, carrying the imprint of his speech in their rhythmic motion. Bell paused, listening as Watson absorbed the faint wavering tones emerging from the receiver, tones that carried meaning just beneath the edge of clarity. The sound was imperfect, blurred, yet undeniably human in shape. Watson recognized the familiar cadence of Bell's voice hidden within the electrical echo, its rhythm clearer than anything the device had ever produced before. The room fell still as both men acknowledged the subtle but unmistakable evolution of the invention's response. Bell felt a calm excitement rise within him, not born from sudden triumph, but from the realization that the last veil of imperfection was beginning to lift. Bell made another adjustment to the diaphragm, altering its position by only a fraction. He recognized that the device now required refinement at the smallest scale, where precision became the language of discovery. These tiny changes had begun shaping the electrical current into patterns with increasing fidelity, bringing the contours of speech into sharper focus. Bell prepared to speak again, feeling the soft tension of anticipation settle gently into the room. Watson leaned closer, ready for whatever sound would emerge from this next attempt. The workshop seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment when sound would cross the wire with unmistakable clarity. The emotional weight of the years behind them blended with the quiet hope of what lay ahead, creating an atmosphere thick with expectation. Bell inhaled slowly, preparing his next phrase, one that would test the invention's full ability to carry the weight of human intention. Bell steadied himself before the next trial, understanding that the invention now required not strength, but gentle confidence. He formed the phrase in his mind before speaking, shaping each syllable with care as he leaned toward the transmitter. His voice moved through the diaphragm like a soft current, sending a new cascade of electrical motion along the wire. Bell paused, listening intently as Watson adjusted the receiver, both men attuned to the faint emergence of sound traveling through the delicate pathway they had built. Watson heard the tones rise with an unusual clarity, their cadence stronger and more distinct than anything the instrument had ever produced. He leaned in closer, placing his ear directly beside the receiver as the vibrations grew sharper, carrying the unmistakable structure of Bell's voice. The tones were still imperfect, blurred at the edges, yet they held a coherence that felt like the final threshold between possibility and reality. Watson looked up, meeting Bell's eyes with silent recognition that the invention stood moments away from speaking fully. Bell returned to the transmitter and made a final adjustment, small, precise, and executed with the confidence born from knowing the invention intimately. He understood that every component now existed in delicate harmony, shaped by years of refinement and unwavering patience. When he placed his hand on the device, he felt the subtle readiness humming beneath its surface, as though the entire mechanism awaited only his next breath. Bell inhaled slowly, bringing his focus to a point of perfect stillness. He spoke the now historic phrase with natural clarity, not shouting, but projecting each word with intention and warmth. The diaphragm trembled instantly, capturing the living quality of his voice and guiding it into a clean, fluid electrical wave. The current rushed along the wire with remarkable fidelity, shaped by every nuance of the vibration. In that moment, Bell felt a soft calm wash over him, sensing instinctively that something extraordinary was traveling through the wire toward Watson. At the receiver, Watson heard the electrical wave transform into sound, this time not a blur, not an echo, but unmistakable speech. The words emerged softly, yet clearly, carrying the full shape of Bell's message. "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." Watson froze, overwhelmed by the clarity of the moment, then felt a powerful wave of realization as the truth settled in. Human voice had crossed a wire for the first time in history, carried by the invention they had built with patience, care, and belief. Watson rushed toward Bell with a mixture of awe and emotion, unable to contain the impact of what he had heard. The two men stood together in stunned quiet, absorbing the miraculous simplicity of the moment. No celebration, no grand announcement, only the profound truth that the world had quietly changed within the four walls of their workshop. Bell felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude rise within him, not loud or triumphant, but calm and deeply grounding. The invention had spoken, not through chance, but through years of steady, compassionate effort. In the stillness that followed, Bell walked slowly around the workshop, placing his hand on the instruments as though acknowledging their role in the breakthrough. The transmitter, receiver, and coils seemed almost alive now, carrying the memory of the moment when human speech first traveled through metal and current. Bell understood that their lives would be forever shaped by what had happened, but he felt none of the urgency or noise that often accompanied great achievements. Instead, he felt a quiet peace, knowing that the invention's first words had been spoken with clarity and purpose. Watson documented the moment carefully, writing down the exact phrasing and the configuration of every component involved. He noted Bell's tone, the positioning of the diaphragm, and the arrangement of the magnetic coils, each detail preserved with reverence. They both understood that the world would later study this moment, seeking to understand how such a simple phrase could carry such profound meaning. Yet, in this quiet hour, the significance belonged only to them, shared in the soft glow of lamplight and the lingering echo of Bell's transmitted voice. As the day drew to a close, Bell felt a sense of completion settle gently across his thoughts. The years of persistent experimentation, the lessons learned from silence and sound, and the unwavering belief that voice could be carried through wire, had finally come together. He extinguished the lamps slowly, one by one, allowing the workshop to fall into a peaceful darkness. Bell left with a calm certainty that the world had quietly shifted, and that the telephone had begun its journey into the heart of human connection. Bell began the following morning in a state of quiet reflection, carrying the memory of the breakthrough like a gentle warmth resting behind every breath. The phrase, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you," replayed softly in his mind, not as something triumphant, but as a calm affirmation that the years of patient work had led to truth. The workshop appeared unchanged as he stepped inside, yet it held a new significance, as though the walls themselves remembered the moment speech first crossed a wire. Bell moved slowly through the room, taking in the stillness with gratitude. Watson arrived with the same expression of quiet awe he had carried since the previous day. He greeted Bell with a calm respect, sensing that both men were still absorbing the emotional weight of what had happened. Watson inspected the transmitter and receiver with gentle attention, almost as if he feared disturbing the fragile magic that had allowed the invention to speak. His steady movements grounded the space, creating a rhythm of careful preparation that mirrored the calmness between them. It was clear that the workshop had entered a new chapter. Bell reviewed the configuration notes once more, tracing each detail of the successful transmission with deliberate care. He wanted to ensure that the conditions surrounding the breakthrough were fully understood, both for refinement and for preservation. Each line of his notes reflected a long journey of subtle discovery, experiments layered upon one another, moments of uncertainty softened by patience, and countless adjustments shaped by intuition. Bell felt a deep appreciation for the pathway that had led them here, recognizing that the steps behind them were as valuable as the breakthrough itself. With renewed focus, Bell prepared the transmitter for further testing, refining the diaphragm with the same gentle precision that had defined the previous day's work. He understood that the next goal was stability, ensuring that the invention could reproduce clear speech consistently rather than as a single miraculous moment. Bell tightened each screw by fractions of a turn, listening to the faint responses as the membrane settled into place. These small adjustments carried the same careful intention that had guided years of experimentation. Watson positioned himself at the receiver, ready for another attempt at transmitting words through the wire. His posture reflected the same quiet hope that had defined their partnership from the beginning, a belief that the invention would continue revealing itself in gentle increments. Watson steadied the receiver with practiced hands, focusing his attention fully on the slightest changes in tone. The air between them felt calm yet full of potential, a continuation of the delicate atmosphere that had surrounded the breakthrough. Bell spoke a short phrase into the transmitter, shaping the words with clear and natural articulation. The diaphragm responded smoothly, sending the electrical fluctuations along the wire with a stability that reflected the refinements they had made since the previous day. Watson heard the receiver tremble, releasing tones that rose and fell with familiar cadence. Though not perfectly clear, The rhythm of the phrase carried meaning, suggesting that the invention could indeed reproduce speech reliably. Bell recorded the results with quiet satisfaction, recognizing the importance of consistent performance. As they continued testing, Bell noticed that the system's clarity improved when the electrical path remained as clean as possible. He refined the wiring connections, smoothing out any points of resistance that might distort the signal. These adjustments enhanced the fluidity of the electrical wave, allowing the tones to reflect the shape of his voice more faithfully. Bell approached each refinement with the same solemn respect that he carried during teaching, understanding that every nuance mattered when the goal was human communication. Watson prepared additional notes, documenting each successful trial with careful detail. His handwriting reflected a calm steadiness, capturing the progression of clarity in the transmitted phrases. Watson understood that the world would one day want to know how the breakthrough had unfolded, and he felt a quiet responsibility to preserve the truth accurately. These records served as a testament to the long partnership that had shaped the invention, reflecting both the technical and emotional aspects of their journey. As the morning passed into afternoon, Bell paused to consider how the invention might one day transform communication across great distances. He imagined people hearing the voices of loved ones from cities far away, sharing comfort and presence through a device built on vibration and current. These thoughts filled him with a soft awe, reminding him that the telephone was not merely a scientific achievement, but a bridge between human lives. Bell approached the transmitter again, encouraged by the promise of what lay ahead. The day unfolded with steady progress, each test bringing clearer tones and stronger patterns of speech. Bell and Watson felt their confidence deepen, not through excitement, but through a calm certainty that the invention was now alive in a way it had never been before. The workshop remained quiet and focused, free from celebration or noise, shaped instead by purposeful movement and shared understanding. Bell sensed that the world beyond these walls was still unaware of what had taken place, but soon the news would begin to spread. Bell began the afternoon experiments with a renewed sense of steadiness, feeling the invention settle into a rhythm of reliability that had never existed before. The clear transmission from the previous day had opened a new world of possibility, and now every test revealed the device's growing confidence. Bell spoke gently into the transmitter, listening as the receiver echoed his words with patterns that grew more distinct and recognizable. These moments filled him with quiet gratitude, reminding him how patient refinement had shaped something capable of transforming everyday communication. Watson recorded each trial carefully, noting how subtle changes influenced the clarity of the transmitted sound. His observations added essential depth to Bell's own understanding, forming a record that blended scientific detail with human perspective. Watson recognized that their progress must be preserved not only for future improvements, but also for the historical significance of what had already occurred. His calm attention to accuracy ensured that the story of the telephone's first words would remain clear long after the moment itself had faded into memory. As Bell refined the electrical connections once again, he noticed how the system now responded with a stability that reflected the balance between physical and electrical harmony. The current flowed more smoothly through the wire, carrying each fluctuation with confidence that had been absent in earlier experiments. Bell understood that the invention had entered a stage where refinement would continue to deepen its reliability, yet the essential breakthrough had already arrived. This awareness brought him a sense of peace as he recorded the improvements in his notes. The room remained quiet as the next set of tests began, each one revealing slight increases in clarity and resonance. Watson listened closely, identifying moments where the receiver captured the rising and falling shapes of Bell's voice with new accuracy. These improvements were subtle, but they carried immense meaning, demonstrating that the invention was no longer a fragile experiment, but a functioning device with growing strength. Watson felt a calm pride settle within him, knowing he had played an essential role in every step of the journey. Bell paused for a moment, reflecting on how this development might influence the future beyond the workshop walls. He imagined messages traveling quickly across towns and cities, bringing voices into spaces that once felt isolated by distance. The idea of a world connected by sound rather than silence inspired him deeply, offering a vision of communication shaped by empathy and presence. Bell felt humbled by the possibilities that now lay before them, recognizing that the invention belonged not only to science, but to humanity itself. As the afternoon light softened, Bell prepared the transmitter for another phrase, adjusting the diaphragm with a precision born from uncountable hours of dedication. He understood that continued consistency would be essential before presenting the invention to the scientific community. Bell spoke the phrase gently, allowing the natural cadence of his voice to guide the vibrations into smooth electrical motion. Watson leaned in, listening as the tones emerged with a clarity that bordered on unmistakable speech. The sound carried a strength that made both men pause, recognizing how close the device now stood to producing fully intelligible words on every attempt. Bell recorded the results calmly, noting the specific adjustments that had created the improvement. There was no exhilaration in the room, only the steady, quiet satisfaction that accompanied meaningful progress. The invention continued to grow with each trial, revealing its capabilities through gentle increments rather than dramatic leaps. Watson stepped back briefly to review his notes, contemplating how the world might react to the news of transmitted speech. He imagined scientists debating its implications, teachers recognizing its potential, and families experiencing the emotional closeness it could bring. These thoughts filled him with a sense of responsibility, reminding him that the breakthrough carried profound significance beyond the boundaries of the workshop. Watson returned to his position by the receiver, prepared to support Bell through the next round of adjustments. As evening approached, Bell surveyed the instruments with a deep sense of calm appreciation. The workshop, once the stage for countless uncertainties, now felt like a place where truth had finally begun to speak. Bell understood that the telephone's first clear words marked only the beginning of a much larger journey, one that would shape the future in ways he could only imagine. He extinguished a few lamps, leaving the room in warm, fading light as the day drew to a close. When Bell and Watson stepped away from the workshop that night, they carried with them a quiet understanding that the invention would soon leave this private space and enter the world. They walked in near silence, both reflecting on what they had witnessed and what it would mean for generations to come. The calm weight of the discovery settled gently between them, not as a burden, but as a shared truth that time would soon reveal to millions. The world had not yet heard the news, but the future was already listening. Bell entered the workshop the next morning with a calm sense of inevitability, knowing that the invention had reached a stage where refinement no longer served only the two of them. The quiet world of late-night experiments, dim lamplight, and whispered breakthroughs had carried them to the threshold of public discovery. The transmitter and receiver rested peacefully on the workbench, appearing almost unchanged, yet now carrying the history of the first spoken words ever transmitted across a wire. Bell approached the instruments with gentle respect, aware that their purpose was expanding far beyond the quiet space where they had been born. Watson joined him soon after, carrying the same grounded anticipation that had guided their work since the breakthrough. He inspected the devices with thoughtful precision, ensuring that every component remained stable after the previous day's trials. These small checks carried immense importance now, for they were no longer preparing solely for internal confirmation, but for the eyes and ears of people who had never imagined that voice could travel through metal pathways. Watson's steady presence brought reassurance, creating a sense of readiness that felt both natural and necessary. Bell reviewed their notes once more, folding together the technical details, the subtle observations, and the emotional undercurrents that had shaped their progress. He understood that their next steps would introduce the invention to a world unprepared for the shift in communication that awaited it. Yet Bell felt no anxiety or urgency, only a calm acceptance that the work needed to be shared. The telephone, he believed, belonged to everyone, for it carried the potential to dissolve distance and bring human voices into spaces once marked by silence. As Bell prepared the transmitter for another round of careful testing, he reflected on how the invention's journey mirrored his own lifelong study of sound. Years spent listening to students, analyzing speech, and observing the emotional weight carried in each vibration had guided him to this moment. The telephone was not just a device built from wires and membranes, it was the physical expression of empathy, curiosity, and the desire to help people feel heard. This understanding deepened Bell's appreciation for what the invention had become. Watson positioned the receiver with attentive care, preparing to monitor its every nuance. He understood that demonstrating the telephone to others required consistency, reliability, and clarity, not merely a single moment of success. Watson's focus sharpened as he listened to the soft hum of the current, recognizing how the device had grown more confident in the days since the breakthrough. The familiarity of the sound filled him with a calm pride, reminding him that true progress often arrived in gentle waves rather than sudden leaps. Bell spoke a phrase into the transmitter, allowing his voice to flow naturally with the same clarity that had shaped earlier tests. The diaphragm responded immediately, sending the electrical fluctuations along the wire with a steadiness that reflected their ongoing refinements. Watson listened closely, hearing the receiver echo Bell's words in tones that now bordered on unmistakable speech. The phrase carried shape, rhythm, and intention, strong enough to be recognized by someone hearing the invention for the first time. Bell recorded the result carefully, knowing they were now ready for the world beyond the workshop. The atmosphere shifted as Bell began mentally preparing for the inevitable moment of public demonstration. He considered how scientists, educators, and skeptics might react to a device that carried human voice through a wire. Some would marvel, others would doubt, and still others would challenge the invention's usefulness. Yet Bell felt no fear of criticism. His years spent teaching the deaf had taught him that communication was not a convenience, but a deeply human need. This conviction gave him confidence that the world would eventually understand the importance of his work. Watson began organizing the workshop, arranging the devices in a way that would allow visitors to see the invention clearly. He cleaned the table surfaces, adjusted the placement of wires, and ensured that the instruments looked stable and intentional. These small gestures carried significance, for they transformed the room from a private laboratory into a space ready to welcome observers. Watson understood that presentation mattered, not as a performance, but as a way to help others grasp the invention's quiet brilliance. Bell stepped back for a moment to observe the workshop, as if seeing it through the eyes of someone encountering the telephone for the first time. The coils of wire, the polished metal, and the delicate membranes all carried traces of the long journey that had led to this moment. Bell felt a deep appreciation for the simplicity of the devices, knowing that their true power rested not in their appearance, but in the invisible pathway they created between distant voices. He felt ready to share this truth with others. As the afternoon unfolded, Bell and Watson continued refining the instruments, ensuring that every component responded smoothly and predictably. Their movements were calm and unhurried, shaped by years of working side by side in moments of uncertainty and discovery. The invention felt alive beneath their hands, carrying the memory of the first spoken words and the promise of countless voices still to come. Bell sensed that the next chapter of the telephone's life would no longer belong solely to the two of them, but to a world ready to listen. Bell began the next morning with a gentle sense of readiness, understanding that the invention's journey was shifting from private discovery to public revelation. The workshop felt almost ceremonial as he entered, holding the quiet weight of years of effort, finally reaching maturity. He stood for a moment beside the devices, appreciating how something so small and simple could carry the power to bridge miles of distance. Bell felt a calm gratitude settle over him, knowing that the world was about to encounter a new form of connection. Watson arrived with the same quiet focus, aware that the next demonstrations would require the same careful precision that had shaped every stage of their work. He inspected the instruments with thoughtful attention, ensuring that each screw, coil, and membrane remained stable after a night of rest. Watson understood that people unfamiliar with the invention might doubt it at first, and stability would be essential to building trust. His calm preparation brought a sense of grounded confidence to the space, as though the workshop itself was preparing to greet its first visitors. Bell rehearsed a few simple phrases he planned to use during demonstrations, shaping each one to emphasize clarity and natural pacing. He knew that the invention's impact depended on more than technical accuracy. It required the emotional weight of real human voice. These quiet rehearsals helped him align with the device, reminding him that the telephone existed to carry presence, not performance. Bell felt a deep responsibility to honor that purpose as he prepared to share the invention with others. When the first small group of observers arrived, scientists, educators, and a few curious skeptics, the workshop grew gently animated with soft conversation and cautious interest. Bell greeted them with his usual calm warmth, explaining the principles behind the invention with clarity and humility. He did not embellish nor dramatize. He simply shared the truth of how sound became current and current became sound again. The visitors listened with polite skepticism, unsure whether such a device could truly carry a human voice. Watson positioned himself by the receiver as Bell prepared the transmitter, mirroring the calm cooperation that had defined their years of work. The observers watched with quiet expectation, uncertain whether they were witnessing a genuine breakthrough or an ambitious illusion. Bell spoke a simple phrase into the diaphragm, his tone steady and clear, trusting the device to carry his voice across the wire. The room fell still as the electrical current transformed his words into motion. The receiver responded with unmistakable articulation, releasing Bell's phrase with a clarity that left the observers silent in astonishment. The sound was soft, yet its meaning was undeniable. Human speech carried through a wire as though traveling across invisible air. Some visitors leaned closer, others exchanged quiet glances, and a few whispered in disbelief. Bell remained composed, knowing that the invention's truth did not need spectacle. It only needed to be heard. Watson repeated the demonstration, speaking into the transmitter, while Bell monitored the receiver. The observers watched as the invention proved itself again, its consistency erasing doubt and replacing it with quiet wonder. Each successful transmission revealed that distance could now be bridged by tone, intention, and presence. Bell observed their reactions with gentle satisfaction, understanding that the telephone had begun its journey into the world through these first shared moments of awe. As the visitors departed, carrying news of the invention that would ripple outward in the days to come, Bell felt a deep sense of peace settle over him. The telephone had stepped beyond the confines of their workshop, ready to find its place in homes, communities, and distant cities. Bell knew that its path would not be simple, but he trusted that its purpose was worth every challenge ahead. With Watson at his side, he prepared for the next chapter of refinement, demonstration, and steady expansion. The workshop grew quiet again as evening approached, illuminated only by the warm glow of a few remaining lamps. Bell ran his hand across the transmitter one last time, appreciating the journey that had transformed a fragile idea into a living instrument of connection. He understood that many voices would soon travel through wires around the world, carrying emotions, hopes, and simple everyday words across distances once thought unreachable. Bell felt humbled to have played a part in opening that door, knowing the invention would continue evolving long after this night. And so, in a quiet workshop lit by gentle lamplight, the first human voice traveled through a wire and changed the course of history. Alexander Graham Bell's invention began not with noise or spectacle, but with patience, empathy, and a lifelong desire to help others feel heard. Today, every call, every message, and every moment of connection traces its roots back to that soft, simple phrase, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." May his story remind us that even the smallest spark of curiosity can reshape the world in ways we never imagined.